Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Adam, and today I'm going to be presenting new research on the post-classic period at the site of Colha in northern Belize. And I also want to give a quick thank you to the organizers of this conference for putting together this wonderful conference that explores all the different aspects of cultural heritage of Belize. Today, what I'm mainly going to be focusing on is first understanding Colha, the site, what's important to know about it, and a quick kind of history of human interaction at the site. And then next, focusing on a specific period of Colha history, which is my research focus, the post-classic period, and to understand what life was like at Colha during this time. So to begin with, Colha is in northern Belize. It's this red triangle here that's kind of outlined by this black circle. It's by the modern day towns of Orange Walk and close to the village of Santa Marta. What's important to know about Colha is that Colha is located in this chert-bearing zone here that's in the gray, this kind of gray splotch here. And the chert-bearing zone is an area that has a lot of chert. And chert is a kind of rock stone material that was used by ancient peoples to create stone tools, so like arrowheads, projectile points, knives, all these different things. And Colha, being in this chert-bearing zone, is very important to its history and understanding what's happening at Colha through time, which we'll talk about in a little bit. When we're looking at the site itself, Colha is a site that has a lot of the main components that we think of with Maya sites. So first we have this monumental center here, and this is where a lot of the larger architecture at Colha is. We have the larger pyramids, important religious buildings, elite residences, all these kinds of things. And then moving out from the monumental center, we have a variety of different household groups, maybe smaller religious groups, and all of these households are unique. We have different things going on, from agriculture to crafting to any other type of activity that people might be up to at Colha. And an area that you can't quite see here, but over here, kind of in the area that's off the map, there is a swamp called Cobweb Swamp, which is important for agriculture for the site, but it's also an important component of the site's history. So when we're looking at the site history of Colha, Colha is primarily an ancient Maya site. However, it does have pre-Maya peoples interacting in the area. So about 5,000 years ago, we are in the late Archaic period. In the Cobweb Swamp area that I just mentioned, this kind of area that's west of the monumental center of Colha, there are people who are coming through this area who are hunter-gatherers, meaning they're not living somewhere permanently, they're kind of moving around to different areas. These hunter-gatherer groups are coming to Cobweb Swamp to participate in horticulture, to grow different non-domesticated plants. And they're also coming here to utilize the chert and make different stone tools that you can see here. So we have this pre-Maya component at Colha, which is really important and very interesting. We're going to do a big time jump to the early middle pre-classic at Colha. And this is a really important time at Colha, but also in Maya cultural history. This is when we see the hunter-gatherers from this late Archaic period beginning to settle down permanently, building villages, building homes, such as the ones that we see here, these platforms, and transitioning into what we would call ancient Maya culture. At Colha, there is this really early component with a early middle pre-classic village in the northern part of the monumental center. We're going to do another big time jump to the terminal classic period, another important period at Colha, and also in Maya cultural history. This period is sometimes referred to as the Maya collapse, and at Colha we have a big event during this time where 30 individuals who are believed to be elite are beheaded, and then the site looks to be abandoned for about 50 to 100 years and then reoccupied in the post-classic. The post-classic is going to be the main time period that I'm going to be focusing on today, but the one thing I just wanted to emphasize again is I was talking about the chert bearing zone and how it's important to Colha's history. Throughout all of this time, from the late Archaic to the Postclassic, chert plays a really important role at Colha of making tools that can be used, but also residents of Colha using these tools to create economic, political, social relationships through trade of the tools that they're producing at the site. We think that Colha probably did play a really important role in the economy of northern Belize throughout time of the Maya cultural history. My main research question and interest is understanding what life at Colha was like during the Postclassic. And today I'm going to be covering kind of three main topics: crafting activities, foodways, and what connections Colha had with other sites. So I think one of the first important things to understand is what evidence we have for understanding post-classic life at Colha. And most of the evidence we have for the post-classic period at Colha are from middens or trash deposits. Looking through someone's trash can actually be really informative to understanding who they are, what they're up to, what social class they might be a part of, what activities they're doing. And Colha has these very large midden or trash deposits where they are several meters wide and can be several meters deep and have a wide variety of different cultural materials that give us a lot of insight into what was happening at Colha during the Postclassic. Some of the different artifacts we found in these middens: ceramics, some figurines, a whistle, some metal copper bells, a conch shell and other marine shell, deer antlers, fishnet weights, and a lot of other materials. Like I said, these midden materials are so essential to helping us understand what's happening. By looking through someone's trash, you can get a really great insight into what their daily life may have been like. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of craft production we see happening at Colha. As I've mentioned before, lithic tool production is an important component throughout all of Colha's history, and that remains true in the Postclassic. We see changes in the Postclassic. New technologies of lithic tool production are being made, such as this triangular adze. This is a new technology for the Postclassic period, and the way that they're making the tools is slightly different than previous periods. They're using pressure flaking primarily, using deer antlers such as this. Another craft production that we have happening at the site is textile production. We have found a number of spindle whorls, which are these artifacts here on the bottom, in these midden deposits, and this indicates some level of clothing production, whether it's just household production, where it's just being consumed by the household, or traded with other households, or beyond Colha. Not quite sure about that, and still working on that. And then we also found this bone awl or needle that would have also been used in clothing production. Other types of craft production we see at Colha include bone crafting. These bones here on the top left, at the very top of them, you can see that they are cut. And when bones were used by the ancient Maya to make bone beads or other bone artifacts, there's this specific process that they do to get the bone cut down to the way that they want it to be for these crafting activities. And the ends of the bones, like these, are usually cut like this. And so we do have some evidence of bone crafting production happening at Colha during the Postclassic. And then also we did find a bone bead here, which is really interesting. So that's a really interesting component of craft production we see at Colha. Another craft production component we see at Colha during the Postclassic is shell. We found quite a few of shell artifacts, including shell beads like this, a shell ear spool, a pendant, a flower, and then this earring, which looks to be kind of maybe like a hoop earring, to use modern terms. And most of these are made out of marine shell, which also tells us they had access to marine resources, maybe through trade routes and other things. We also did find this conch shell, which had incising on it, represented in the white lines here. And you can see on the shell where they had incised it and started to break off pieces of the shell to make these beads. Moving on to foodways at Colha, what we can see is that a lot of the plant materials that were eaten in previous periods continue to be used. There seems to be somewhat of a continuation in the plants that they're eating. However, there is a really big change in their eating habits of wild animals. There's definitely an increase in the exploitation of animals at Colha during the Postclassic. And what we can see from the faunal collection is that there is a really wide variety of animals that are being eaten at Colha. On the right, I have listed some of them: deer, turkey, marine fish, as well as freshwater fish, different types of turtles, freshwater turtle, as well as marine turtle as well. And so we just have this really wide variety of different animals that are being eaten at Colha during the post-classic period. There also seems to be a greater reliance on shell, particularly marine shell that's coming in, but also freshwater shells such as apple snail shells, which are here, and hute shells. And we also know that fishing is playing a bigger role in the post-classic period due to the number of fish net weights, but also due to the number of fish bones that are recovered from this time period. Next, we're going to talk about some of the external connections that Colha has with other regions. And what we can see is that during the post-classic, there seems to be this affiliation with sites in Quintana Roo and along the Quintana Roo coast. And we can see this due to similarities in ceramic assemblages between those sites and Colha. One of the best indicators is ceramics. This is an example from Colha of this incised paille variety. And it's very similar to other cultural types that we see along Quintana Roo. And we also know, as I said earlier, that the residents of Colha seem to have access to marine goods through the marine shell, also through coral and other marine animals, and also through obsidian. At the site, most of the obsidian from the post-classic period is from Ixtepeque, which is down here in southern Guatemala. And what researchers think is that during the post-classic period, Ixtepeque was traded primarily up the coast of Quintana Roo and into the Yucatan, just because at the time, the sites that have a lot of political power are in this area. And so what I hypothesize is that at Colha, residents had access to this coastal trade route that was established during the post-classic due to having a lot of Ixtepeque obsidian at the site, but also having a wide variety of different goods from the ocean, different marine animals, marine shell, and all of that. So what we've learned from Colha is that there are these changes that are happening from the previous terminal classic period to the post-classic period and are starting to give us some insights into what life was like at Colha during the post-classic period. But as always, there's still more to learn and new insights to take. The last thing I want to do is just say thank you to the communities of Santa Marta and Orange Walks for hosting us. And I can't express enough gratitude for the invaluable help and collaboration that they have given us over the last few years. It's been a really amazing experience working with these communities, visiting the Santa Marta primary school, and just getting to learn from them, learn a lot of information about them, about Belize, about Colha, about Santa Marta, and I can never emphasize the amount of gratitude I have for our community members in Santa Marta. Thank you so much.